I'm so glad to visit with you, and I thought it took some real courage to reach out the way you did. Most students wouldn't do that, and so I was like, well, if she's reaching out, I sure as heck better better do this. Fire away, ask me what you want to ask me, and you're welcome to record this as well if you'd like, whatever you want.
Awesome, thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your hectic schedule to make time for this interview to speak with us today. So my name is Dubin, and I am a current 9th grader attending Lower Moreland High School, located in Lower Moreland Township, Pennsylvania. My current role for the documentary team is the producer, along with the director of the Strengthen Unity and Celebrate Diversity Project Unit. Right. The documentary project started when our superintendent, Dr. Scott David Heiser, informed students in grades 9 to 12 about the opportunity to film and document the construction of the new Lower Moreland High School over the course of 2 years. However, after the sad impact that COVID-19 has had across the nation, along with our community, our lead documentarian, Sophia Zlipsky, reached out to Dr. Scott David Heiser to shed some light in this dark time. And she reached out if we could possibly branch out and add branches to the documentary. One of the branches that I am in charge of is the Strengthening Unity and Celebrating Diversity. And when I first heard about that, I was so excited, and I wholeheartedly reached out and elected myself for this position. And it truly has been one of the best decisions I've made. Good. And so the objective of my role consists of combating the different tensions taunting our community, such as racial, economic, and racial injustices. So that is the main objective of my role. But on other hands, we also want to recapture the spirit of our Commonwealth's founding father, who is William Penn. And fun fact, he actually has a direct tie to Lower Moreland via land grant, who he gave to Dr. Nicholas Moore in the year of 1682. And William Penn is one who has cooperation with the Native American Indians. And he worked well with others despite their races and their faiths. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, as your role as Attorney General, with your innovation initiatives within the office as Attorney General, can you talk about these initiatives and what contributed to their success?
Well, let's start at the beginning. I felt that when I became Attorney General, I had a real responsibility, obviously, to the 13 million Pennsylvanians who were relying on me as their chief law enforcement officer, chief legal officer. And that a big part of that responsibility is making sure that people would have faith in the system. And the way you have faith in the system is making sure that everyone feels like they're getting a fair shot, right? They might not always like the results. They might not always agree with your decision. But if they feel like you're being fair across the board, then ultimately you have a chance at getting justice in a particular case or lawsuit or whatever the case may be. And so in order to do that, I felt that it was important, first and foremost, to make sure that our office looked like the people that I was sworn to serve, meaning we had more diversity and ultimately inclusion within the Office of Attorney General. And we did that in a couple of ways. One, by making sure the folks I hired for the senior staff were diverse. I'm proud of the fact that a woman leads my office. Actually, I'm proud of the fact that we have more women in positions of leadership than men. The LGBTQ community is represented at the highest levels in my office. The leadership of our agent command, there's 3 agents that lead our other agents, 2 are African American, and that to me, I think, sends a very, very important message, particularly for the people who are out in the streets. And then in order to help fulfill my goal of creating a more diverse and inclusive office, I hired the first ever diversity and inclusion director. And then in terms of the outward work we do, we expanded the mission of our civil rights section to ensure that people who are outside of government, right, people out in the community, if they were targeted based on what they look like or where they come from, who they love or who they pray to, that ultimately, if they were targeted for that, they would have a place in the AG's office that would stand up and fight for them. So I am very, very proud of the diversity we've achieved internally, right? 60% of all of our new hires are women and people of color, to the work we've done on the outside for our civil rights section and otherwise.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. To correspond with the question I asked you, what are some challenges that you faced while implementing these initiatives, if there are any?
Look, I think just making sure everybody felt heard and included in the process. And when you're coming in to shake up a big agency, we've got about 1,000 people in our office, and you're saying we're going to do things different than we have done them in the past. You got to just make sure everybody's at the table. Everybody gets heard. Everybody feels included. That people understand that diversity and inclusion isn't a threat to them and their job, but actually it can expand its reach and help you do your job better.
Thank you for that detailed response. I am unsure if you are aware, but there are so many in-person productions and virtual discussions about the importance of diversity and how to strengthen unity.
Yeah.
Most of these discussions are more geared towards the workforce. However, up until now, there have not been as many of these productions and programs geared towards students. So if you had a chance to talk to our student body in person from your diversity and inclusion work as Attorney General, what message do you think you could translate to young people in the Commonwealth?
I might flip that a little bit. I actually think you all, students, have the ability to educate us and empower us. The way students tend to there are exceptions to this, but you tend to be far more forgiving and understanding and inclusive of people who look different than you. You tend to be more intellectually curious about people who have had different life experiences or different religious experiences. And I'm really inspired by that. It doesn't mean that people aren't targeted when they're students. It doesn't mean that there's not bullying or cyberbullying because, someone, believes something different or looks different or acts different. But I think by and large, we the adults could learn a lot more from you. I would just say to students, don't be afraid to take on big fights and to work together in order to accomplish things. Be mindful that we have some shared challenges that bring us together. It doesn't matter if you're a young white kid, black kid, gay kid, straight kid, what have you. We're all dealing with a warming planet and serious climate change issues. And we've got to come together to work on those issues and work together. And so I think it's less about me coming and lecturing you and more about you teaching us through the examples that you're setting.
Thank you. And in this day and age, so many people are completely divided and polarized. So how can we capture the spirit of William Penn, one who is full of cooperation, inclusion, and tolerance?
Well, I think just try and take the temperature down a little bit, right? Everybody gets so immediately worked up and pulled to extremes. And I think the more we can take the temperature down and have a dialogue with one another and calm the conversation down, the better. And actually, I think it's in the spirit of Penn and Quakerism as well. You all communicate in really incredibly interesting and different ways, particularly online and through social media. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I think using those platforms to call out BS, if I'm allowed to say BS on this, and helping people actually realize we're not that divided, but we're pretty similar and what have you. I think that's a really important thing. So use your social media tools, use your voice, use your fingers when you're typing to go and help people kind of see the humanity in one another. And I think most importantly, at the end of the day, just speak truth. There's so many lies out there. There's so much distortion and misinformation. And the more you can work together to speak truth, the better.
Oh, that's amazing advice. Thank you. And from your experience in the Office of Attorney General, how can we, the Commonwealth, better promote the understanding and tolerance about different ethnicities across our community?
I think that we need to just recognize the value of diversity, that we need to help people understand that diversity is not something that is going to be harmful, but if anything, it's going to be helpful. It's going to, create betterness in our community. I really believe that we have to get out of the mindset that if, for example, we work hard to help a young, poor Black child do better in North Philadelphia, that somehow the white suburban child at the Lower Moreland School District has to do worse. I know you don't believe that, but I think there are some people that believe it's sort of the zero-sum game. I think what we have to understand is if we elevate that young child and help give them a good quality education, that's good for everybody. I think it's also important to note, that there are young, poor Black children in North Philadelphia and young, poor white children in rural parts of our state who equally can't rely on the school system to help give them a shot, who equally don't have economic opportunities in their communities. And I think helping them see the humanity in one another because their struggles are similar is really important.
Thank you. That's a delightful response. And actually, this is our final question. And
Okay.
as you may be aware, we are actually building a new high school, which is the purpose of the documentary.
Yeah.
So our documentary team, along with many members of the Lower Moreland Township School District, are looking upon the new construction of the new high school, which is set to open in the fall of 2023 as a new beginning and a new chapter for Lower Moreland, one that shows the importance and celebrates diversity, strengthens unity, and encourages inclusion. So with that being stated, how can we ensure that every student in our student body gets a good education? And what advice do you have for every student at the Lower Moreland High School?
I think, first off, you have great teachers in your school district, and that's really, really important, right? It's hard to learn without great teachers. So that's first and foremost. You also, most people are coming from homes that, where they have reliable internet and where they have 3 meals a day and where they have loving parents and guardians who are encouraging their education. And that doesn't exist everywhere. There's a lot of school districts that don't have that as a, sort of a backbone, if you will. So I think, you're in a really, really strong position in Lower Moreland. I would just say celebrate the greatness of what you have and allow yourself to see the fact that there are students in other districts and living in other neighborhoods. By the way, not too far from where you and I live. I live in Abington, you're in Lower Moreland. You go into some zip codes in Philly, for example, and students don't have the same blessings and opportunities that you and I and my children have. So I think it's really important to help see that. And as you think about focusing on your future and taking the lessons you learned from Lower Moreland, just make sure you recognize that you are kind of a small piece in this universe and that we have a responsibility to the greater good. We have a responsibility to others. And so, we're relying on you. We're counting on you to take on the big fights for our future, to be courageous, to speak truth, and to look out for others. And I think that at the end of the day will be the blessing of your Lower Moreland education. Because you're going to learn a lot of good stuff in math and English and Spanish and all that, right? And you're going to forget some of it too. Don't tell your parents I said that. Don't tell your teachers I said that. But it's true, right? You're going to remember some, you're going to forget some. But if you can walk out of there as committed citizens, as patriotic Americans, as people who care about one another, that's pretty good lesson plan there, and pretty exciting. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for your delightful insight on these questions. And I truly appreciate you taking your time out of your extremely busy schedule to film this petite interview.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I saw your eyes going over the side. Is that your mom or dad who are there with you?
Oh, we actually have Sophia Zlipsky. She's here today helping film this. So she's the lead documentarian.
Let me say hi, Sophia.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for this very inspirational interview. I'm right here.
There you are.
Hi,
So
thank you.
that's my daughter's name.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
That's awesome. Oh, that's,
Oh, okay, perfect. That's what you're saying. But I don't want to see myself. Oh, right, okay.
I don't want to see myself. I will. See ya.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, girls.
Bye, thank you.